now is definitely not the time to panic. And welcome aboard, everybody, to the Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you, and today we're going to talk about the New York Mets as we're going through spring training. It has been a pretty quiet spring training for the Mets this year, whereas compared to the Yankees, they have all kinds of problems right now with injuries to some of their key players. Now questions about Aaron Judge and his health and when he will be ready, for that matter. But for the Mets, we'll get to their injury in a minute. For Mets, it's been a pretty quiet spring training thus far. This coming after an offseason that had so much turmoil. From the managerial situation with Carlos Beltran, Mets hiring him, he gets involved, or it comes out that he was involved in the Astros sign-stealing scandal. He gets fired. Mets bring in Luis Rojas, and then the news that the Mets are going to sell to Steve Cohen, and that fell apart. So it was a lot of crazy news with the Mets in the offseason, and really since spring training started, it's been kind of quiet for the Metropolitans. They've just gone about their way. It's been about the starting pitching. Noah Syndergaard pitched well the other day against the Houston Astros. Jacob deGrom looked good in his a couple of starts in spring training. Rick Porcello, Mike Kawaka, they've done a nice job. Steven Matz trying to find a way to get himself back into the rotation. So it's been a pretty quiet, tranquil spring training for the New York Mets. There hasn't been a lot to really dig into until now. So that, of course, with the injury to Michael Conforto. Conforto was suffering a right oblique strain. Left camp on Monday to go back to New York because he felt a twinge in his back. He felt a twinge in his back, so the Mets wanted to get an MRI to make sure what the issue was, and it turned out to be a right oblique strain. And look, oblique injuries, as we all know, like hamstring injuries, very unpredictable. You don't know how they're going to go. Could be a couple weeks, could be a couple days, could be even months for that matter. You just don't know with oblique strains. So the Mets are going to take a precaution. There's a good chance right now that Conforto will not be available to start the season for the Mets. And that is, let's just be honest, that's a blow right now for the Mets going into the start of the season. You're talking about a guy who, in Conforto, who is 27 years old, is going to be, even when he's healthy, is going to be the starting right fielder for this team, coming off of a big year last year where he hit 33 home runs, drove in 92, had one of the best years of his young career. And when you look at that Met outfield with some of the uncertainty there with J.D. Davis, who was really an infielder playing the outfield. I know he had a great year last year with the bat. Proved that he can play some outfield as well. He's going to be your left fielder. You're going to have Brandon Nimmo, Jake Marisnick kind of platooning in center field. There were questions about this outfield going into the season. There still are. And with Conforto now out of the picture, you are going to see Jake Marisnick most likely play right field. Nimmo playing in center field. Maybe they switch it up a little bit. J.D. Davis is going to stay in left. And maybe even Jeff McNeil, who is going to be your third baseman this year, who played a lot of left and right field last year. He may fall into the mix in the outfield as well. So it's going to be a plethora of different guys. And one thing that I saw online, and a crazy rumor out there, and also saw this from my friend Rick Laughlin, who of course is the managing editor of Mets Amazing Clubhouse on Maven.com. He showed me this rumor that, what about Yasiel Puig? Let me just say this about Yasiel Puig. And yes, Puig is a guy who is that big right-handed hitter the Mets could use in the middle of their lineup to protect a guy like Pete Alonso. We get that. Had 24 home runs last year, 22 of which came in Cincinnati last season. Has 132 career home runs. Was an all-star about 5-6 years ago in L.A. I understand all that, but the problem with Puig is he is an absolute head case. This guy's still a free agent. Nobody has signed the guy, and there's a reason for that. Always getting into trouble, whether it be fights with the opposing team. I remember there was one point where he lost focus in the outfield because he got frustrated, I guess, by the lights in lights or something, and he lost track of the ball. The ball was tracking in the outfield, and he was so upset, and he was pointing at the lights and pointing at the fans. It was crazy. The guy just lacks focus, and that's the big thing with Yasiel Puig. Why would the Mets want to break up the chemistry they have for a guy like that? Makes no sense, and there's no reason to hit the panic button right now for that. So I don't see Yasiel Puig fully into the equation unless the Mets get absolutely desperate, later in the year, and they have to have someone like that on the team. I just don't see it. But Here's another thing. Do the Mets really need Yasiel Puig? Do they really need that right-handed hitter in the lineup who has a tendency to be a bit of a knucklehead and lose focus? Well, they already have that player, and his name is Yoenis Cespedes. Cespedes right now has been hitting in simulated games. He is running in a straight line. He's trying to stay away from wild boars, as we all know. And for that matter, the Mets and Cespedes, for that matter, are hoping that he can get back into the field. He wants to be back in the field by opening day. That's what he said a couple weeks ago. But let's just be realistic. Probably isn't going to happen so soon. He hasn't participated in a spring training game. But the Mets would love to see Yoenis Cespedes get back into the mix if he is indeed healthy and fully healthy from these multiple fractured ankle injuries that he's had over the last couple of years. But look, when Cespedes was healthy, as we all know, he is one of the more gifted hitters in baseball. A few years ago, when the Mets went to the World Series, when they first acquired him, had 17 home runs in 57 games, was a big reason why they got to the playoffs that year. Had followed that up hitting 35 home runs the next year. He is a big-time power hitter. The problem is, in 2017 and 18, injuries, lack of production, also a lack of focus at times, even when he was healthy. That has been the case with Cespedes over the last couple of years. What are we getting now with Cespedes at age 34? We don't know. But the Mets could certainly use him, depending upon how long Michael Conforto is out. So forget the idea that the Mets go out there and make a trade for an outfielder, like a Clint Frazier. I know that's been out there as well. Forget the idea that the Mets are going to go out there and sign a Yasiel Puig when they already have that kind of hitter trying to come back from injury in Yoenis Cespedes. They're going to stay in-house. They're going to go with an outfield, as I mentioned before, of Nimmo, Marisnick, and J.D. Davis, maybe a little Jeff McNeil as well. And that's fine for the start of the season. Maybe you get Yoenis Cespedes healthy, and he's well enough to help and to play in a couple of games at the start of the season. Maybe not the first series of the year, maybe not opening day, but maybe at some point in the month of April. And hopefully, if for the New York Mets, Michael Conforto is healthy enough or can get healthy quickly enough that he can return to the lineup sometime in April, sometime in late April for that matter, as he recovers from the oblique strain. So that's where we are with the Mets. That's really the only real drama for the Mets right now. Other than what the situation is going to be as far as who the fifth starter is going to be. Are the Mets even going to have a fifth starter? That's been a conversation point of late at times this spring. What's the situation going to be with Edwin Diaz? Is he going to be the closer of this team? And just looking quickly at what he has done. Again, he's only pitched in a couple of games this spring. We haven't seen a lot of Edwin Diaz this spring. When is Dylan Betances going to get involved in some spring training games as he's making his way back from Achilles tendon injury? So it's been a lot of wait and see, I guess you could say, with the Mets more than anything else so far this spring. So we're going to do a full discussion on the Mets and what to expect for this team going into the 2020 season. It's going to be a loaded NL East, as we all know. We know the Braves are really good. We know the Phillies are going to be really good. Nationals are still going to be good, the defending world champions. And then there are the Mets right in the middle of it. They believe that they can be a playoff caliber team this year. We'll see if that could come to fruition. So we're getting 16 days out, folks. 16 days until the beginning of the 2020 Major League Baseball season. Remember to follow us on social media at OpenMikeMJ on Twitter, Facebook.com/OpenMikeProgram. Remember, like and subscribe. Kill that like and subscribe button right here on the Sports Talk Nation right here on YouTube. We'll talk to you next time.